Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Kyrie plans to meet with the Suns. The Mets could have some big decisions to make, and Brian Windhorst joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with a perfect game. Only the 24th perfect game in Major League history.
I don't know that it makes sense. You know, there's so many weird things about it. So the 140-plus year history of Major League Baseball means that anytime you say perfect game, since there have been only that many of them, it's going to be special. You're going to go, whoa, perfect game. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, there were only like 10 of them. And so there's been a lot of them, relatively speaking, over the past, 40 years, since 1981. There have been a lot of them. And so maybe it's a little less special. But for him to throw one, I mean, you think of immortality, you think of guys who are going to the Hall of Fame, and about half of them, or slightly more, are going or in the Hall of Fame already. But what is he? Where do we place him? Getting booed off the mound like a minute and a half ago, and then throwing a perfect game against a team that's one of the worst hitting teams in the 140-year history of baseball. I decided this morning, my head is blowing up. I can't make sense of it, and I'm not going to try. It's just a fun thing to acknowledge.
Perfect games are extraordinarily rare, and there is no rhyme and reason to who throws them. It's the hardest thing for a pitcher to do, and yet the number of the 24, only 9 have been thrown by pitchers in the Hall of Fame, pitchers like Koufax or Cy Young or Randy Johnson or Catfish Hunter. You would not expect Germán to have thrown one because not only did he get booed off the field the previous start, the one before that, his last 2 starts, he's given up 15 runs in 5 1/3 innings. But as you say, you might suspect that Oakland would be the team that it happened against. Their batting average as a team right now is .217. That is the 6th lowest batting average since 1900. Germán himself has a checkered past, some of it very recent. He was tossed for 10 games this year for using too much goop, and, you know, the assumption is that he was cheating. He was tossed for 81 games a while back for domestic violence. I don't think that MLB really wants him to have thrown this particular thing. He's never had a shutout or a complete game in the major leagues. This is very interesting. I was told this today. Do you know what it's called when you throw a shutout in less than 100 pitches? It's called a Maddox, after Greg Maddox.
Oh, after Greg Maddox.
He did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the most famous one of all time is Don Larson. But if I gave you these names, Mike, if I gave you Dallas Braden and Philip Umber, would you say, oh, yeah, sure, they threw him? They had career-losing records.
Umber, I knew because he's a White Sox pitcher, so I knew him. Braden, I forgot about. He was on the call, apparently, last night for this one. And in Oakland, it's still, you put all these things, factoids together, and I'm not sure any of it makes sense, but it's cool. It's a cool thing, I think.
Yeah. We move now to the NBA rumor mill. Chris Haynes of Bleacher Report is reporting that Kyrie Irving will meet with the Phoenix Suns, who are looking to quickly assemble a championship team. Wilbon, these are your Suns. Can you see Irving fitting in Phoenix?
No, not at all. And there's a lot of dynamics here, Tony. You know, a lot of dynamics. I mean, everybody's talked about whether Isaiah Thomas has influence with Matt Ishbia, the new owner. We've seen them courtside together. I know they're close friends. I know that. This is not going to be disingenuous. And Isaiah loves Kyrie. I know that having nothing to do with the Suns. Isaiah Thomas loves Kyrie Irving. We've gotten into arguments. Isaiah's forgotten more basketball this morning than I'll ever know. But I have at times said to him, stop with Kyrie. I know you love him. He thought that Kyrie was going to be great with Luka last year. I think Isaiah owes me breakfast on that one because they weren't. Not that it was his fault entirely, Kyrie. The Suns have no money. They have no money to go after Kyrie Irving, and Kyrie Irving's not going to come here for free. Kyrie Irving's going to go back to Dallas because that's the only place that can both be a playoff team and pay him. He's not going to Detroit. He's not going to Houston. He's not even going to go to Sacramento. He's not going to any places. He's got all the leverage on Dallas. Dallas has to bring him back. He can take all the meetings he wants. He can have all the meetings, Tony. No, he's not coming to Phoenix. He can come hang out here. I don't think Kyrie plays golf. He can come hang out here, be in the sun. It's great, but he's not coming to play for the Suns. No.
So I mean, my answer to this is a little different than yours. And it's just that, haven't we all seen this movie and don't we know that it ends badly? Haven't we seen it a million times? I mean, how did it work out for Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn? Not too great. How did it work out? You say he can only go to Dallas. I don't even know why they would want him. You say they're a playoff team, but they weren't a playoff team.
They have to have
he
him.
got
They
there
have
and
to have him.
he got there and they were not a playoff team.
They
I
weren't,
look
that's
at
true.
this owner, Matt Ishbia, and he's a young man who I think overpaid for the franchise. I think he's impulsive. I think he's splashy. I think he wants to do everything in a hurry. So he gets Kevin Durant, then he fires a coach, then he gets Bradley Beal. Boom, boom, boom. He's been there an hour and a half, and there are fireworks being set off all the time. I don't think this would work, and for the simple reason that if you have three guards, right, you got Booker and you got Kyrie Irving, you know, and you got Bradley Beal, and they each want to take 20 to 25 shots a game. I mean, is that going to work? I don't know.
Tony, you don't have to suppose it'll work. The Suns don't have the money. There are rules in the NBA. There's a salary cap.
Well,
Kyrie Irving's not coming here for $1.50. That's not going to happen. Kyrie Irving wants to get paid.
What if they make a trade?
That's why he left Brooklyn.
What if they trade somebody? What if they trade Ayton and other things? I don't know. It's your team. I take no responsibility for it. NBA free agency opens tomorrow, which makes it a perfect time to bring in our good friend, Brian Windhorst. Brian, James Harden has just opted in. What does that mean, and what does it portend?
It means that he didn't reach an agreement with the Philadelphia 76ers on a new contract. And, you know, the issue here is that I don't think he had much of a market in straight free agency because there just isn't teams out there that have a lot of money that are willing to pay him, and sign-in trades are very difficult because they're subject to a whole different set of rules. And so he's bypassing free agency, and he's going to try to force a trade. And few people in NBA history have more experience in forcing trades than James Harden. And so here we go. The next few days are going to be interesting. And the first domino here, guys, was last night when, in a surprise move, the Los Angeles Clippers released Eric Gordon to knock $21 million off their payroll. And I got to say, yes, it was a lot of money coming off their payroll, but the LA Clippers don't do things to save money unless something else is going on. And as soon as that happened, the wheels started moving. What are the Clippers doing? What are the Clippers doing? And that is what has brought us here, because I think the negotiations with Harden and the Sixers weren't going well. The Clippers were aware of it, and they are, by getting Gordon off their books, they make their situation cleaner to set up for a possible trade with the Sixers and James Harden. Now, there are other teams I would expect to jump in here. I don't think this is a done deal, but the Clippers have expiring contracts. They have 2 first-round picks that they can offer in trade, and they have the ability to, offer, an array of different players that could help the 76ers. And so I think the Clippers are deep, neck deep into this. It went all the way down to the wire for Harden to pick up the option almost exactly to 5 o'clock when he picked it up. But he has. And watch out for the LA Clippers creating a new big three with James Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard, figuring out how that might go.
Brian, as always with the NBA, we couldn't wait to actually see that. Even though getting all 3 of them on the court at the same time for more than 5 games might be something you'd want to go to the betting window on, you've established the Clippers and Kawhi and Paul George staying. Who else might be? Give me another team, because it's hard to imagine if the Clippers are involved that the Knicks wouldn't say, oh, wait, us too, even though they might not have the assets, but would the Knicks be involved?
Yeah, so Adrian Wojnarowski has reported that the Knicks are one of the teams that Harden would have an interest in. I think the Knicks, what might be interesting, guys, is I think they're trying to save their powder for maybe a huge name player that might become available in the next year. And so they got a question, is it worth using some of their draft assets or some of their young players in trade for James Harden now? Or can they wait for a potentially younger player that might be a better fit? Remember, whoever trades for James Harden is going to have to deal with him on a 1-year contract. And his contract is structured in a way that he can't extend it. So you're trading for a guy on the last year of his deal that you're going to have to deal with this in a year. He had difficulty coming to terms at age 33 here with Philadelphia, who had reason to re-sign him. Whatever they were offering, he didn't like. And I don't blame him for playing hardball. You're going to inherit that situation next year. So It's obviously trading for a player that doesn't have a lot of money left, but it's trading for a player that you might just be renting, and that'll affect the price.
We'll get you out of here on this, but it's the other big name that surfaced today. Chris Haynes is reporting that Kyrie Irving plans to meet with the Phoenix Suns tomorrow. Could you see Kyrie Irving reuniting with Kevin Durant in Phoenix?
It would be very difficult and unlikely because of the rules on what it would take for a sign and trade. The Suns are way, way above where's my hand? The Suns are way, way, way above the apron that is required for you to be underneath. So it would take a 3-team deal potentially. If there's one thing harder than a 3-team deal, it's a 3-team sign and trade. It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely. And frankly, from the outside, it looks like a leverage play. Having said that, it now appears like Philadelphia may be in need of a point guard. And there may be an option there for Kyrie Irving to continue to test that situation. So I would not be surprised if we see Kyrie want to investigate what's going on in Philadelphia. If Harden moves out, if there's a window for him to come in. The other name here is Dame Lillard. Is it possible that Philadelphia, if James Harden moves out, could acquire assets from Los Angeles, put their assets together, and prepare an offer for Dame Lillard? That is an option. Kyrie Irving potentially would be an option, or they could go with Tyrese Maxey, take whatever assets they might get in a James Harden trade, and send those assets somewhere else for somebody else. So we had kind of what was looking like a mundane free agency period. James Harden has forced the issue because his market was narrow, and now we're going to have a circus probably for the next 2 or 3 days.
Circus is fun. Circus is fun. Hot stove in every
Kyrie
sport is
getting
fun.
booed in
Thank
Philly
you,
every
Brian.
night by those fans? How about that? Woo.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.